Sunrise weatherman Grant Denyer took to the water earlier today to see the impact in the Brisbane suburb of Milton.
So apparently 74 was the top of that awning. Just there. So that's the house where that family were sort of sitting on the balcony for most of the morning, just planning to ride it out, I think, and then they decided that it's time to get out because the level was getting higher than they anticipated, and took a couple of canoe trips just to get them out. There was 3 of them in total, but thankfully they're all okay, and it looks like most of the places are now empty. There's signs left on the front door there. There's messages to any emergency services, mobile numbers just in case they need to be contacted and found, and stuff stuck in the window. You can see they've got it stacked up as high as that they can in the window there. But I don't think that's going to be high enough with the flood level that's anticipated. It's going to be very close anyway. Look at the tree line. Oh yeah, the car left here. Completely consumed now. That looks like it's a Saab, or the top half of a Saab. You realise how much the water levels come up when you know that that's a power line, an overhead power line. So it hasn't come down to us, we've gone up to it. Houses over here. God, look at these ones. Single story, almost completely submerged. Garage completely wiped out, it's gone. And you can see the contents of the home that they've tried to stack up on tables in there, and it's just nowhere even near high enough.
Now, we've had a lot of calls about the fate of horses we showed you last night trapped in the floods near Ipswich. The good news is they were all saved, but some are badly injured.
These thoroughbreds are wounded, weak but alive.
Being up on the roof of my house like that was just amazing. I was worried she was going to drown, and you guys came back with her on a boat, and it's just saved nearly every horse I've got.
Yeah, old girl.
Bob Syret is a horseman and a reluctant hero. As the Bundamba Creek rose in Beval, the Vietnam veteran rescued 10 horses and cows using a tinny and rope.
I've been in the army, but nothing tough as that, you know, but to seeing horses standing on roofs, swim and try to save their lives. I'm still tied up in the gut, but, you know, what can I do, you know? We're only human.
Horses which had been moved to higher paddocks found themselves struggling in neck-high water. As Bob's own house went under, he and his mates lassoed one horse after another and towed them 1 kilometre to dry land.
I'm a horseman myself, and no way in the world could I see a horse drown.
Well, I didn't think we'd be able to do it. The chap with me was a pretty skilled horseman, and obviously he was probably the main reason we got it out.
They were cut badly by gutters and tin.
Whatever was underneath that bloody water, we couldn't see. They certainly found it.
Most of the wounds are too horrible to show.
Yeah, that's just from bumps somewhere, that'll all go down.
It was a miracle to save them. Now they need one more. A vet spent 5 hours here for free last night, giving the horses antibiotics and tetanus shots. They'll need care and kindness for months. In another paddock nearby, trainers are watching their rescued horses.
They want to go back home, and we're worried that they tend to go down to the water and then just try to swim back home. Well, you can imagine there just isn't any home.
These injured stallions and mares have bred champion racehorses, and they will again.
And you saved them for me.
They're right.
Erin Edwards, 7 News.
Next in 7's coverage of the Queensland flood crisis, the warning over information being spread on social networking sites. Well, authorities are warning people about hoaxes doing the rounds by SMS and on social networking sites. They include untrue claims this morning that Brisbane's Wivenhoe Dam was at risk of bursting. And for more on this, I'm joined by social media expert Tom Tudhope. Good evening, Tom. Thanks very much for joining us. Just how careful do people need to be about following information posted on these social networking sites?
I think people need to be very, very cautious about the information they share on social networking sites. Facebook and Twitter are at their most effective when people share authentic information, so real information that's very much based on fact. And what we're seeing with some of the information that's being shared is very untrue, it's very misleading. And today we even saw Anna Bligh, the Premier, come out and say that people should be very cautious about the information that they are sharing. So that people should heed that warning. social networking sites can be viral. So if someone shares information that is not correct and it goes viral, it has a lot of potential to do great damage to people's lives in a crisis like this.
It's sometimes a bad case of Chinese whispers, isn't it? We've gone really wrong.
Yeah, you know, SMS might be one-to-one, but Facebook is one-to-many. You know, you might have 1,000 friends or 1,000 followers, and if you're posting a message out there about a road closure or about telephone lines or something like that, it has potential to do great damage to people.
All right, so good and bad for those social networking sites,
Yeah,
Tom.
very good and bad.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you. Now, the inner suburbs of Brisbane are usually one of the most popular places, full of restaurants, bars and some of the city's most desirable homes. But now it's partly underwater, with many of those homes and businesses inundated. Seven's Pippa Gardner met some of those residents. Residents in the Lockyer Valley who lost their homes in the flood have shared their survival stories. They spoke to Sally Eales at the Helidon Evacuation Centre a little earlier.
No, no warning whatsoever. Just looked out the back window and a 5-foot wall of water coming. And that's,
So you had dogs as well?
Dogs, birds, chooks, they're all gone. No, a lot.
So when you saw the wall of water coming, what did you say to your wife?
Get out. I got her out the window up a tree. The house washed over onto a tree and I got her out into that. And I got up on the roof to get the helicopters to come. But I was up there for about 2.5 hours before they come, but they had other people on the ship, so but never mind.
But what was it like as you were on that roof and your wife was on that tree looking at all that water? What did you see going past?
I'm not going to say what I saw. But, a couple of people and that.
What was it like, though, looking at the power of the water? How forceful was it?
It was just shocking. You wouldn't have swam against it. It was too fast.
Probably had within 15 minutes to get everybody upstairs into the house. It was a high-set house. We're in the house on the floor, like inside the house itself, and seeing this wall of water come and decided that we've got to get higher than this. So we got furniture and stacked it one on top of the other to make a stairway to get to the manhole. George gets up in the manhole, knocks the manhole out, and had to get the roof off. So they had a weightlifting set in the back room, so we got the big dumbbells, and so I stuck them up through the roof to George, and George smashed 4 sheets of roof and I peeled them open.
And George is your neighbour, isn't he?
George is my neighbour. It's only for George's house and being a neighbour so close, we probably wouldn't have survived because we were in a low-set house and the water was about 8 feet in the house.
What happened to your house, did you see?
My house come off its stumps and turned and jammed between the trees and telegraph pole. We're standing on the roof of George's house and the houses behind, there's a big shop beside George's house, come off its stumps, smashed into the house that we were standing on. And the houses from there, further down the street, there was 2 houses beside those. They were taken off their stumps and just washed into the paddock out the back.
I mean,
people were in those houses. They were rescued, they all survived, but they were in the houses when they took off like a houseboat.
And you could hear them?
You could hear them, yeah.
What were they saying?
There was that many screams and yells and dogs barking. Like the mates next door up on their roofs. People across the road got up on their roofs. Ray and Danny, the guys next door, they rescued as many people they could up the end of the street. There was an elderly people a couple of doors up. Michael and Kerry, they were actually in the house and couldn't get out of the house. So Ray and Danny got down and tied a compressor hose between the 2 houses and sort of got them back across before the water rose, like when the water was actually coming up, got all them into his house.
So that's another neighbour, is it?
That's a neighbour next door to where we were on the roof of.
You were told a wall of water was coming, but did you really grasp the concept of what was happening?
No. We'd seen the water. We'd seen water before, like it'd come up through the creek. So my house itself actually backs onto the creek. The water usually comes in, and you see the water rise, and you just thought, you didn't expect it to be a tidal wave. We expected a bit of water. The water will come in, it'll rise. It might rise quickly, but it wasn't a rising current. It was a rolling current, more like an inland tsunami. it was a rolling wave.
And so you were up on the roof. I mean, you managed to push your two dogs and the big dog.
Yeah, we got all our kids up, and
so that was how many people on the roof?
There was George, Lynn, Julie, me, Ryan, Reese, and Hayley, and 3 dogs.
I was thinking that if the house happened to go off its stumps, how do I save all my kids? I knew that the current was just too strong, and I just knew that there wasn't much hope if the house had gone down. I said a few prayers while I was up there, yeah.
We didn't know what had happened.
But you and the kids and Beau, what did you do?
We had rung emergency services because the water was just getting higher and higher. They had just told us that there was nothing they could do at that moment in time to just get to the highest possible point in the house. So we were just getting plans in place to get to either the roof or into the manhole of the house, and that's what we were concentrating on, and keeping our kids calm, trying not to be panicked around them so that it could keep the panic level to a minimum, as much as you could. It was a difficult thing, we were all very scared, so...
That would have been terrible, as a mum, you've got two kids, and you're probably thinking, how am I going to get them out?
Oh, yeah. That was as a parent, protecting your children is the first thing, so, yeah.
That's what you were worried about?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It was my children, yeah. Before anything else, it was just having them safe. Boosting them up on the roof, getting them up there, getting them in a manhole, whatever. They were definitely first, yeah, protecting them. As any parent would, anyone. And all our friends around us, they're exactly the same. Anyone with their children. There's so many people here have been affected, and, yeah, that was the most important thing for everybody, is getting their children up safe first, and then trying to protect yourself as well, yeah.
Just ahead, a full wrap of the weather, including what we're expecting across the flood zones. You're watching 7's continuing coverage of the Queensland flood crisis. Now, 7 News weatherman David Brown has the latest forecast for us. And now for the latest on the flood crisis, and tonight some positive news for Brisbane residents, with Energex reconnecting power to many homes. Now 77,000 houses remain blacked out. Around 15,000 homes and businesses were swamped when the Brisbane River peaked early this morning at 4.45 metres. Just like the 1974 flood, some of the worst damage occurred in Rocklea, with entire streets going under. Archerfield, Fairfield and St Lucia were battered before the floodwaters hit Brisbane's CBD. The death toll from the tragedy has now risen to 15, with 61 people still unaccounted for. Tonight, fresh evacuations are underway in the Queensland border town of Gundawindi, just south of the border in New South Wales, and in Victoria at Halls Gap. And that's the latest from the 7 Newsroom for now. Our flood coverage continues in the morning. Mel and Koshy will have sunrise live from Brisbane from 5 a.m. across Queensland, 6 a.m. everywhere else. I'm Rebecca Maddern. Thanks very much for your company, and good night.